How's it going, everybody? I'm Halfd0rk, your host. Welcome in. Today, we're going to be continuing our trading card game here on the Sandbox. And in case you didn't know, Alpha Season 3 is coming to a close. They're currently doing a 24-hour stream, but thank you so much for visiting us. If you're here live on Twitch, we are currently streaming Mondays, our trading card game dilemma, as we kind of figure out a way to make something so unique in this sandbox ecosystem. And so we're going to be visiting some of the mechanics of that later in the show. But today, I'd like to introduce you to the new Builders Contest that was just announced by the SandStorm Meetup. So if you are interested in making a monster, the Sandbox Builder Contest number 18, hosted by our Sandstorm team, is currently live. So the theme is going to be building a scary monster made of your favorite food. And so a lot of ideas come to mind. Something that I might create would be more in like a medieval setting. So I'm trying to imagine, like, what if a feast came to life? So there's these monsters called mimics, which usually mimic everyday life. So what if this giant table full of food happens to turn into a giant monster? And so something like that would be what I would create. But that's time permitting. So the deadline is currently Friday, November 11th. So we have almost 2 weeks, 11 days really, to make one of our spooky, scary monsters made of our favorite food here. But thank you so much for joining us today. If you are interested in the rules for any of the Sandstorm contests, you can head over to the Sandstorm website. This contest currently is not added to this page, but it will be in the very near future. Yeah, just keep in mind, we have a limited amount of time to build a monster, and it can be made of any food you would like to see in the metaverse. Kind of funny how they use this picture, but regardless, very interesting stuff. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and hop into our trading card game. I'll be, talking through my thought process for the show itself. But welcome in, everybody. Hope you all have a fantastic day. Thanks again for joining us. So let's go ahead and get right into it, shall we? Where we left off was I had created cards that spawned in our hand whenever we start, the turn. So that was our start turn animation. And so it spawned one of 3 cards in our hand. And then I can use one of these 3 cards on our enemies. It says there's nothing else you can do, end your turn. And then the next turn begins. We see a slight animation here. And the enemy ends their turn. So a couple things that I'm not too happy with is we can't really hide the text on our cards. So I might consider putting like a spawn point above this point. Like maybe a couple feet above. You can see me jumping here, but perhaps like a couple feet above, so we no longer see the text on our cards. I want this to be kind of like a very intuitive ending of a turn. So right now, like if I drop the card, we can see that all this text is overlapping, and I think that's a little bit distracting. And so by doing so, I would be able to kind of shield this text. Perhaps even placing the character up here might help, so that this text would then be in the center and it won't be distracting at all. And then finally, we need to start adding more cards to our hand every turn. We can see my characters are taking damage, but they're also not really working as intended. So we'll be taking a look at these things as we go. But I also want to set up today the essences. So I use these hearts to represent like the amount of energy we can use in a turn. And right now we have 2. So I'll probably delete one of them. And we just want to track our energy using this 1 heart. So that's another thing we'll visit today. So the first thing I wanted to do was that thing we were just mentioning, where I'll spawn outside of our spawn point here. And in doing so, that would permit me to kind of place text in a way that's legible. That's the idea with that. Yeah, if anybody has questions whenever you're watching these live streams over on the SandStorm Meetup on Twitch, you're always welcome to ask questions. I'm more than happy to take a detour and kind of investigate whatever you're troubleshooting, or just show you how to do something. So if you wanted to make a quest in the sandbox, or make an enemy respawn in a specific location, stuff like that, feel free to ask. So what I'll do is set up a new respawn point. I'm going to use an asset spawner here. And we're going to spawn basically only when the end turn occurs. And then when we spawn, it's going to remove the checkpoint so that we spawn here. So my asset spawner here, we aren't able to add tags to it. We can see that the avatar's portal, which is literally the default spawning location, always has like no settings. Like we can't edit it. If I were to click a different object, for example, we can see that I can edit the collisions, I can give it a behavior or components. So in that case, I'm going to be spawning a checkpoint here. So let's go ahead and pick the spawning point. We're going to put it slightly underground. You can see here in this blue space, that's where it's spawning. So I'll rotate it, place it back here, and that way it's spawning kind of like in this area. I'll reduce the distance a little bit. And the message required is going to be our end turn. That spawns this. We have like a dialogue that occurs, so let's review the dialogue that happens whenever we end our turn. We can see here, card.detected goes out. That is what sends the end turn message, card.detected. So what I can do is I can associate the card.detected with the spawning here. And I want to give it a plant behavior so that I can delete it when I need to. We're going to give it the checkpoint behavior. Hi, VVox. Welcome in, V. If you couldn't tell, V, there's a lot of competition for viewership right now. But also, it's a very exciting time for Sandbox having that 24-hour stream. But V, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to drop them here in chat. But yeah, just keep in mind, everybody who's tuning in either now or later to the Sandstorm, you can come and bring your questions live and I'll answer them in real time to help you become a better game maker. And if you're, visiting this in the future, feel free to send me a DM, whether it's on Twitch, Twitter, Discord, or tag me in the Sandstorm Discord. That'd be a great use, of introducing you to the game maker, because I enjoy teaching this kind of stuff. Oh, V, no, you don't have to sweat it. V, everything I'm doing here, you already know how to do. Hey, what's up, Slaterade? Slaterade, speaking of which, I would love to help set up commands. I know Nightbot, you guys tinkered with a bit, so like having a command to drop the Discord link, for example. Yeah, we're always on, true that. All right, so we're spawning our checkpoint. The tag is checkpoint so that the player will respawn there. And we're going to be giving it the plant behavior. So with the plant behavior, it has a default message called kill. So we're going to be sending out a message, aka kill, specifically to this plant. So we're going to be sending out a message broadcast. Message being sent is going to be kill. And I think I'm actually going to, instead of message broadcast, so go back a little bit, I'm going to be using a health component to send out that kill command. So we're going to be sending out the kill message on a brief delay. So essentially, we're spawning the checkpoint. The checkpoint spawns when a card is detected. Then the player is killed. Then, so this is the third step, then this checkpoint is killed. So it's basically spawn, kill player, kill checkpoint. And so that allows us to spawn at this new checkpoint and then immediately remove that checkpoint. And so we're going to have a short death delay. We'll use 2 seconds here. And that's going to be our end turn message. So on the end turn message, it's also sending a kill command to our player. So we can see here, end.turn is killing the player with a negative death delay. So that kills our player faster than it's going to kill. So we're sending out a kill message to all of our checkpoints. So we're only going to have one checkpoint active at a time. One thing we always want to keep in mind is capitalization. So everything is a case specific when it comes to messages and tags. So Vvox says, there's one thing I want to know. Sandbox card game, the cards move on a platform like a conveyor belt when you select a card. Is there an easy way to do that, or needs lots of platforms and mechanics? That is a fantastic question, V. I think they are using toggle behaviors and spawners. And so the toggle behaviors are uniform. So all of our platform cards are moving together. So they're all using the exact same message, basically playing a card. So we'll just put this in perspective real quick. You have a hand of 3 cards. So I'll use my 3 fingers here. So let's just say you play the card on the far left. So I'm trying to look at the camera so what you see. So the far left card, that's going to remove it. And then both of these cards move over. We draw the new card, which slides into place. And so all of these cards will probably have like a mechanic that completely removes that platform behavior once it gets to a certain point. At least that's what I'm imagining. So it'll probably like detect exactly which card is in the last place. And then all the other ones are moving regardless. So the one in the last place just never moves. But all the other ones are moving on a timer once they're added to your hand, and they stop. Each card has its own platform, SV. I would assume so, if it's how you describe. I would love to play it again and try to analyze it. A lot of times it's simpler than how I imagine it. But again, that's kind of like the trial and error of it, is like you have to figure out, how to make something work most efficiently. And so they very likely made a very efficient way of playing that game. V, if I know this is a lot to ask, but if you're able to find that game page, because I can't spend too much time looking for it, but if you're able to find it, I would love to visit it and try to, review that. But I imagine, yes, they all have a platform and they're sliding into place because as you mentioned, they kind of move like that. All right, so we're spawning the checkpoint. Checkpoint spawns. We're killing the checkpoint after the player spawns on top of it. So once the player spawns on top of it, we're going to have a detector. Detects the player. I should totally make a preset of this, by the way. Let's actually make this a preset. I know this is kind of simple, but this might help us in the future. So I'm going to save this as a new preset. Detect avatar. And so when it detects the avatar, it's basically going to spawn a new one. And so because that end turn message had already gone out, let's take that back. We don't need the detect player. We can just use the health component again. So the health component is sending out a kill message. But this detection message might be useful in the future, so I'll keep that in mind. I also want to set up second health message. We're using timed health killing mechanics here. And with this, I'll also set up a preset. We're going to do reset short death delay, hiding the health bar. And so I'm going to save this as a preset as well. So health reset. And just to see how this interacts, drag and drop it. I'm going to remove the collisions on it. Save it again. Great. So one of these is going to do that same mechanic. So just as a review, the instant death message was the end turn. And it's sending out the kill message specifically to our checkpoints. I'm going to have this one on a 1 second death delay. And I'm going to duplicate it. And we're going to make a new one that has a 2 second death delay that sends out an entirely new message. This will be spawn.checkpoint.1. That way I know exactly what it's doing. And this is going to be going to an asset spawner. So I like to do acronyms. I'll do AS. All asset spawners will technically receive that message so long as I have that tag. So then our asset spawner is going to be spawning spawn point. And one thing to keep in mind is this checkpoint also needs to be destroyed. Well, there's also we also might not even need it because we're destroying the only other one on the map, so it's just going to send us to the original. Let's just see what happens. I'm going to start my turn, end my turn, it spawns me in the new location. So now I need to kill the player again. So I need to send out a kill message that the player can receive. So we can see I only have one message, end.turn, that kills our player. And it's respawning me to the checkpoint. So I actually need to set up either a way to kill me, or I need to send this message specifically to the player. So end.turn. So let's go ahead and set that up instead. So with our health command, I'm going to do that same death delay. And then I need to find whatever message is coming from my start turn. So we can see enemy.turn.1.end. This is enemy turn.2.end. So each of our end turns have a different message. Which we can associate with a message broadcaster. This is going to be associated with pretty much every single one of our messages. But it's only going to be killing our player. I'm sending the end turn specifically to the avatar, the player character. And it's occurring whenever the enemy turn ends. We had enemy turn.1.end, 2.end, etc. I'll probably associate that with however many turns we have in our game. Each one of our games will probably be like maximum 50 turns. This one shouldn't do anything. Yeah, it currently doesn't do anything. So again, we're sending out that kill command. Let's try it again. Spawning. Enemy does his turn. Enemy ends their turn. It kills the player again, but we can see I was unable to go to the original starting location. So one thing I want to test is looking at our checkpoint. We can see the new checkpoint has spawned. I spawned on it. It removed it. However, because no other checkpoints have spawned, it's respawning me there even though it's not there. So with that in mind, I actually need a new asset spawner. And so that's where this asset spawner comes in over here. So this asset spawner is basically spawning on our spawning point whenever the end turn message goes out from our health component, which we saw was spawn checkpoint.1. So that message is spawning the new checkpoint. That checkpoint.1. Great. So now we'll be spawning a new checkpoint whenever they end their turn. It's not currently spawning the new checkpoint, so we got to see what's happening here. And yes, if anybody has questions, feel free to drop them in chat. So we're killing off the new checkpoint. We're sending out spawn.checkpoint.1. It's going to our asset spawner. The asset spawner currently does not have the tag. So we need the AS tag. Now it should work. On here, we get to read the text now. And now we spawn here, and we can continue as previously planned. Perfect. I am going to go ahead and remove our block spawners. Those didn't work as I wanted them to. I'm also going to move this location a little bit. Now the player is currently spawning in this kind of empty hole. I'd prefer if I was unable to move around, but that'll be fine. We'll test it one more time. The card. Fortunately, if you collide with something, it actually breaks things. So I need to make sure we have no collisions. Some of these things. Might also be smart to have like a reset to hand type feature. That might be very difficult to create. Guess we'll find out. That time it spawned me, but because I didn't go through the start turn mechanic, kind of broke. In turn, enemy ends their turn, and we respawn. Okay, so that's working as we want it to. Every time we end our turn, it's spawning a new checkpoint for us to respawn to, and then we get to watch the enemy do their thing. And what I'll ultimately end up doing is placing a giant wall over this, which would only cover these portions. So we can set that up just to see how it would look. So essentially, a non-collidable wall that would cover the player. Something like this. So we can see the text in the middle of the screen. It's not perfect. What I would probably do is move the ally characters a little bit further south of the screen space. Let's go ahead and do that. So that way the chat bubble that appears goes directly in front of everything here. And so while there is the gray text, it no longer is blocking anything. We can see that even my cards are on the bottom of the screen here. The only other thing that I don't like is all of this negative space. Maybe I'll have like a title that appears up here that says enemy's turn. Okay. Now I'm going to delete these walls. Don't need them. We have our spawn locations here. And I think starting next week, we're going to be really focusing on the RNG aspect of this. So if you guys want to learn more RNG, which is random number generating, so basically picking randomized cards, that's going to be next Monday. So a couple of things we're going to be making on Friday. So if you guys didn't know, Friday, Sandstorm asked me to do a little Vox editing. So we will be looking at making cards in Vox Edit, as well as some of these other things that I've mentioned, such as the enemy turn. We'll probably make some UI elements. So maybe like a discard pile, perhaps even like a game board might be fun to try and make, or at least like the elements. So if you've ever seen how mobile games are made, they're usually using like small PNGs and kind of interconnecting them on the screen. So those are some of the things we'll be working on today. If anybody has suggestions, feel free to drop them in chat. So one of those things is going to be making a deck of cards. So we're going to have probably 5 different cards that you could draw at any time, ranging in price. So we'll probably have 3 that are valued at 1 essence. So you have to have at least 1 essence to play them. And then we'll have maybe 2 that require 2 essence, and then 1 that requires 3 essence. So that's what we'll focus on making. So we'll have 6 cards that we have to have total. We've already made 1. So deck cards. We'll probably be making the card back for our game. We'll be making 5 different fire type cards. We'll need an enemy turn, and probably like an enemy card hand. So enemy hand. They'll probably have their own deck as well, deck and discard pile, but we don't have to worry about that. We'll be customizing our own. Hello, what's up, Oscom? Welcome in. I'm struggling in making a trading card game in the Sandbox. So I don't know how much you've seen of it, Oscom. But basically, you start your turn. You can pick up one of however many cards are in your hand. You move it over to whichever character you want to damage. So let's say I want to damage this toad over here. It ends our turn. Then we get to see them do their turn. They end their turn, and then we respawn again and rinse and repeat. Looks cool. Yeah, it's bare bones. A couple of things that are going to take a while to set up would be like deck resource management and how we want to approach, like starting the game itself. So it's like, do we want it to be like an open world where you get to walk around and talk to people, kind of like Pokemon? And then like you're challenging people, and each person has like different enemies that you get to fight. So like maybe one kid has a frog and a leech. The other kid has a dragon and a mosquito. These are the types of things that I want to try and create. And Sandstorm wants me to experiment. So cool. You can speed up the animations. Well, animations we can speed up. Like this, for example, is a platform mechanic. I can totally speed that up. But like, as for animations themselves, like literally making this fire spray, like that's something we can make in Vox Edit as well. So I'll probably add that to my list of things. Fire spit animation. So we can play these animations when we trigger them. Cool. So that being said, I want to start working on our resource management. So of course, we can't play all 3 cards the same exact turn. We can only draw 1 card per turn. Let's just say we have a maximum amount of cards of 5. We can say the starting hand might be 3. So we can see here, this is like my space I get to run around in. So I'll probably have a total of 5 cards. So these are our card respawn locations. So for now, I'm going to just work with like 3. But in the future, I want to have like a maximum of 5, because in any card game, you have like mechanics where you draw more cards, stuff like that. You make your enemy discard cards, etc., etc. So how do we want to approach this? All right, I'm going to work on the resource management. So this heart down at the bottom where it says 4, I'm going to place it a little bit lower, probably closer to the ground here. And we're going to be making that resource in Box Edit as well. That'll probably end up being a giant crystal of sorts. So with that, I'm going to just place it in a way that makes sense. And let's go ahead and decide how to navigate that. The first thing is we're going to have indicators, and each of our indicators are going to be spawning and despawning. And there's going to be some math behind the scenes. That part I'm not too excited about. But for example, let's just say I had 5 cards in my hand. One of those cards costs 2. One of those cards costs 1. So I would need to have those cards interact with this mechanic, this number. So that might be more difficult. But we'll find out. So as we're working on that, I'm going to go ahead and remove one of these cards from play. And we're going to set up one of these to be that extra number. So the display name 2 here. We can have one card that spawns. I don't know why it's spawning so far away. Let's find out what's happening here. So I did start turn. One of my cards is basically spawning where it shouldn't. I think it was one of these, maybe? Nope, not that one. Not this one. Here's an asset spawner. Yeah, this is the one. Okay, so this is spawning in an unideal location. Basically, every time we start our turn. So this is not how I want to set it up. So this is going to be our next card spawner. So we're going to have several of these. And so this is going to spawn every time we start our turn, and it's going to be toggling on and off. So we're going to have like 20 of these pretty much. For our example here, we're only going to use the 1, but just for reference, this card spawner will spawn a card, but it will be initially off. The very first card we draw will not have any RNG. We always kind of assume like this is the card you spawn with. But in the future, every card is basically going to be on an RNG system. We haven't decided on how to make that yet, but the RNG system is going to turn on a random card, and then the start turn message is going to draw the card and then start the RNG once more. So we're going to basically have like 2 messages here that interact with these. One of which is going to be the card dot selected. And then we're turning it off shortly after we start our turn. So there'll be a small timer here. So we can use the health reset. It's going to be communicating with all of our card.spawners. Nope, we want our card selectors. That's going to be turning it off. So we'll just use the off message. We'll just make a quick message here. Off. That is communicating with this, which is a card selector. And what will happen is we're probably going to have multiple asset spawners here for each card, and then for each of the spots in our hand. Oh man, this is getting weird. Hey, Fred and Fred, what's up, dude? Currency is fun stuff. Yes and no. There is some potential, though. I think using health might actually be the best option. But if we use health, when it hits 0, we're respawning it. So maybe health. Fred, I totally went on a tangent when you said that with currency, but you've actually given me an idea. So we might visit that. But yeah, with our card selector, we're selecting a card. Each one of these card selectors are going to have a specific tag. R.1S. And so that would turn it on. Once it's turned on, it then spits it out once the start turn message goes out. So that we're not going to worry about right now, but I'm kind of like setting it up for me. The offset, we're actually going to just have it right next to our spawner. Essentially, the preset is what's going to be doing the work. The preset will be spawning it here once the correct message is sent. So our preset is this little doohickey here. And so when this little doohickey receives a particular message, it's going to be spawning and I'm going to be setting this up once we get into more complicated things, because once it dies, it's then sending out a message. Man, this is getting more complicated by the second, but this is definitely an advanced type of game we're making in the sandbox. Oh man. And so once that happens, what else am I doing? Okay. Resource time. So our resources are going to be these hearts on the bottom. We're going to be tracking them either with indicators or what was reminded me by Fred and Ferd here is instead of an indicator, which I'm going to place this one off screen in case we come back to it, we can use health pool. So for this, I'm going to be using health and a defender, or a soldier behavior. We're going to remove the ability to move. It's not going to be able to deal any damage. It can't attack anything either. But what's important here is it's always going to be showing its health. And this is going to start with 3. So we can see health pool, hopefully. And the health pool is supposed to be yellow. So this yellow health pool will represent our resources. So every time I use a card, it will expend one of those resources. Each turn, we'll gain a resource, and we'll be able to use more cards. So that's the idea. So how do I want to do this? Well, first off, I have to make the resources name of it. We'll call this essence. You can use X amount of essences. And so we'll say that this card here, once we use it, it's going to be dealing damage to our resources. Those resources will also be tracked by a small icon, multiple icons, for fun. So let's go ahead and we'll start tagging these. So we'll do like resource.1. We'll attempt to use 3. Resource.2. And resource.3. So it seems as though I can't hide this. Because, okay, cool, we can hide it. We can see I have 3 essences. And with those 3 essences, they're being tracked by our health pool. The health pool is more or less a visual. It doesn't really matter. It's just kind of representing the number. But what's also representing it are our numbers here. So each one of these is going to be destroyed. So instead of plant behavior, I'm probably going to do a health. So we're going to remove the plant and instead give it a health pool. We're going to have a message broadcaster that's associated with damaging not only our health here, all of these will have 1 health point. And we aren't going to see them be given damage. However, they will reset. And they won't have a death delay. We don't need them to deal any messages at the moment. But what's going to happen is our message broadcaster is going to be sending out 1 point of damage. And we're probably going to have multiple of these each time we use a resource. So if we're using our resources by expending a card. So for this example, we have a 2-cost card. So I can put it up on screen again. We have our 2-cost card. Once we use this, I need it to send out that damage number. So here's our damage number. It's being sent only once our card has been used. So let's set it up with this green one here. The green one is detecting attack.1. For our new card, we're doing attack.2. And we're actually going to make a new detector for that. What I like to do is rotate them just so I can understand a little bit better, like, oh, that's number 2. So this one's going to know that this is an attack that has a 2 cost. And it's spitting out that attack.2 message. So attack.2 we have to set up specifically. I wish I had a different card for this because that would help me associate it better, but I can't add anything to the game maker without it taking a couple hours through box edit, which is unfortunate, but that's just how it is right now. So I'm going to be setting up a new message broadcaster. So this is sending a kill command specifically to Heatspray 2, and it was waiting for the attack message. So it's sending out the kill command to our card. So now it's going to remove our card once it's detected. Right now it's not detecting it because our card wasn't given new tag. So we can see attack.2 on it. We want attack.2. So it had attack.1. We want to give it attack 2. Now we can see it's being removed. Great. So when it's removed, I want it to understand, hey, this 2-cost card was removed. And so we have a message here that we get to associate with our card. So that card is going to be sending, on death, a Essence 2. Didn't I set up anything yet? Doesn't matter. We're doing Essence.2. So it's going to cost 2 Essence to use. This is going to go to all of my Essence. So when it's destroyed, it's sending out Essence.2. Great. So we have a damage 1. We're only working on damage 2 at the moment. Because we're dealing damage to our essences. This is going to be our Essence.2. That's dealing damage. We'll have a delay here. specifically to our essence. And so if we're dealing damage, specifically to our essences, we need to ensure that it's only dealing damage to the 2 remaining ones. So for now, I need these to be respawned in a different location after we destroy them. Or I have them all respawn at the end of our turn, which I think is the better idea. So I'm going to set all of these to destroy rather than reset. So essentially they're all going to get wiped out at the end of our turn regardless and respawn at the start of our turn. When damage 2 goes out, it's specifically dealing the damage to this tag. This is our health pool. So we can watch this in action. Bringing this card over. Actually clicked through it too fast there. So I need a longer time delay on these, I think. 1 second. 1 second. And then these I actually need to reduce the time as well. So we have 1. This one will be 0. But this essence did not receive damage, so we need to make sure that this message broadcaster is receiving this message, essence.2, which is actually coming from another message broadcaster, I believe. Well, I think attack.2 is what was going out, right? Attack.2. So attack.2 is what's sending out that damage as well. See how that interacts. Buenos dios. How's it going, Roxy? So I'm going to go ahead and start our turn. I pick up a card. Place the card. We can see my essence takes damage at the bottom of the screen. End our turn. Enemy ends their turn. I spawn back here, and then we're going to be healing the essence once we get the start turn message. Let's go ahead and heal our essence. And we're going to heal it to full. So it's going to be heal 10, or it's just going to be respawning. So I actually don't need a heal message at all. Instead, we're going to be having asset spawners that spawn multiple every time we get a new turn. So for example, turn 1, I'll only have 1 heart. Turn 2, I'll have 2 hearts. Turn 3, I'll have 3 hearts. So that's something we'll be setting up. And based on the amount of time we have left in the stream, I might be able to do that real quick. Cool, so we have our soldier. And I'm going to basically simulate 3 turns. I think I actually have to make our 3rd turn. Wait, no, it goes player turn, enemy turn, enemy turn, player turn, enemy turn, player turn. So we should have 3 turns right now. I actually fake it. This asset spawner does need to come back. It's not really working right now. Oh, because we put a toggle behavior on it. So we'll just toggle it on. Then we're just going to see if we can do have the start turn again. However, it's not spawning second version. So this is turn 2, so we do have 3 turns. That works for us. Great. So now that we know we have 3 turns, I'm going to go ahead and try to set up our 3 resource management. So I'm going to save all of these. So each one of these, we're going to be customizing in another stream. But we're going to go ahead and preset them. So this is going to be turn 3 essences. I'm creating a new one, turn 3 essences. I'm gonna delete one, change the health to 2. We're gonna save this as a new preset. So we turn 2 essences. And then I'm gonna delete 1. And then just give this 1 health pack. And because it is, our starting amount, I don't need to change anything here. Great. So now we'll have an asset spawner that is going to spawn those presets. We'll use preset. Preset is going to be turn 2 essences. This is going to be when the card or enemy end turn 2 occurs. And we're going to be placing it above our character, basically in the same spot. This is going to be a one-time event, but because of the message associated, I shouldn't have to adjust it at all. And then both of these assets, I actually need to delete somehow. So right now they have destroy messages associated. So I'm going to anchor our presets. This one's invisible. So if it's invisible, you're probably going to make an anchor outside of everything. And so these will both be children of it. I can't put them on our spawner. So instead, I'll be making a new anchor. Yeah, I made this. I don't want that. I want a logic lamp. So this is going to be associated with each one of our presets. So this will be preset number 1. And it's going to have a plant behavior that is destroyed on that same message that spawns the next one. So enemy.turn.2. This one will be enemy.turn.2. And I'm even going to rotate it. I don't think I should rotate it, actually. Because if I rotate this, it's going to spawn ironically the same direction that this asset spawner is facing. So I can actually put my asset spawner right here, place whatever I need to spawn in that space. And so now it's facing the exact same direction. We should be good here. So we're going to be spawning the first one. So this one I'm going to now set 1. So what do we call it? Turn 1 essence. So we can see each of these. Essence. I'm going to search in my hierarchy essence. And we're going to attach them all to my turn 1 essence. Cool. And then I can save this as a preset if I need it. If I don't, turn 1 essence. I'm going to go ahead and spawn the other ones that we made. And we're rinsing and repeating. Move this to the side for now. Go ahead and make these. We'll put them in place. What I can do here is actually overlay them. I probably won't do that. I guess I will. It makes sense to do that. Then I want to rename them. This will be Essence 2. the essence to return to essence. On these, child them. This one's going to have our parent. So this one will be our plant, and it's going to be our other suggestion, enemy.turn 2. So this one actually needs to be enemy turn 1. I'm going to save it as the preset. This will be our turn 1 essence. This one's turn 2, so I'm going to preset that one on our turn 2 preset. It'll be turn 2s. And I'll just duplicate this one. Rename each of these. The essence 3. This one will be our turn 3 essence. I don't know if you guys noticed, but with presets, it automatically renames it when you spawn it, but when you save it, it saves the naming convention, which is kind of interesting. So like when you're in runtime, it actually uses whatever you named it, but whenever you save it and then try to edit it, it actually redoes it. So let's see if I can just show you real quick. So turn 1. So this one we just set up. If I were to place it on the field, I'm actually going to move the name of some of the children. So the parent is fine, but the children go back to whatever their default name was. However, in runtime, it is fine. And I think it has something to do with the parent-children hierarchy, so it's not saving the children's names. So if you do have multiple assets, such as these, you're going to want to remove anything that needs to be named from the children hierarchy. So we're probably going to run into an issue with my soldier behavior here, but we'll soon find out. It'll be essence source dot 3. So resource 3 has 3 health. Great. So all of these are going to be edited and reviewed as we go. But lastly, I want to make sure this has the essence 3. And we're going to go ahead and preset this, saving over our old one, turn 3s. Can you make a suggestion? Always, Roxy. Feel free. We're kind of just, troubleshooting as we go. And we are over stream time. But Roxy, if you want to save it for next week, fantastic. If you want to DM it, even better. Because then maybe we can troubleshoot it together, and I'd be happy to review, everything on our next stream. But before we go, I might go a little bit over time and try and get the spawner working. The first thing that we want to have is our turn 2 spawner. So we're spawning turn 2 on enemy turn 2. We can see here, spawning it in this exact same location. We'll go ahead and test it. So when I use turn 1, it removes our essence, nothing else we can do, end the turn. Enemy ends their turn. I spawn in the new location. We start our turn. And we didn't receive the enemy turn message with our spawner. So that means this asset spawner requires us to send out enemy.turn2 and receive that. So let's take a look here. So enemy.turn.2, we actually wanted enemy.turn.1.end is what we're looking for. Try it again. So we start our turn, we play a card, we end our turn, enemy ends their turn. Now we have essence 2 at the bottom. Cool. The main thing is name of our essences. I do want to edit. I'm actually deleting these because we didn't use them. Put a wolf on the deck, says Roxy. You know what, Roxy? If you're here Friday, if you just pop in, all you have to do is pop in, Roxy. I will put a wolf on the deck. I will try my best to make a wolf deck or a wolf card. Probably one of the two. That might be fun. Yeah, everybody here. If you guys are here Friday and you say the secret word, what should the secret word be? All right. The secret word for Friday's stream is going to be spoin. That's a good a secret word as any. But we did get our resource management started here. So when we deal point of damage, it should, yeah, there we go at the bottom. So right now it's only associated with this card. But we got it started. Point. So if anybody is here, just to finish that thought, Friday, and you know the magic word, I will make one of the cards with your commission, with your suggestion. So for example, Roxy will probably make like a fiery wolf, and it'll be nicknamed Charge. And so V, if you have a card, we can do emotional damage. And Fred, we can have a step on a sharp object or something. But regardless, that's where we're going to be ending today. Quick review of what we set up. We set up the ability to detect a stronger card. That stronger card deals more damage not only to the enemy, but also our hand, our resources. We kind of... oh yeah, we also made a spawning location for the player. So when the player ends their turn, they're going to be spawning in a new location so that we can read this dialogue better. So you can see here, the dialogue is now more central to the battlefield so that we can read it better. Unfortunately, the text is still overlaid. So what we can do here is we can actually bring our asset spawner a little bit higher. And we'll just see how this looks. And the idea being, by spawning at a higher location, I can make the text distance further and thus invisible. So we'll have like a bigger view of the battlefield, but that also would allow us to remove the text on, say, our cards, for example. So that might be something we work on for user interface. But yeah. I want to thank you all for watching. Thanks for tuning into the Sandstorm. If you're here Friday, I'll be making Vox Edit creations specifically for this game. So kind of a continuation, but at the same time, we'll be exploring Vox Edit rather than Game Maker. You want a tipsy one, VVox? Yeah, she deals a lot of damage. She deals emotional damage. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to probably raid the Sandbox. I don't see why not. So thanks again. Bye, everybody.